Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Score podcast. I am in studio and Josh is not, but that's all right because that's how we usually rock and roll. Josh, how we doing? What
That's
happened?
good, man.
Am I
How's
not?
everything over
Was I
there?
not putting my mouth to the mic? Was that what was the problem there before? I'm sorry. Hold on.
Let's do it. You want to restart it? Real
No,
quick?
why?
All
Why?
right,
We don't got to restart.
all
It's
right.
fine. It happens. We're
All
not perfect. It's not a perfect world. Sometimes we're gonna
I
have
heard you
flaws.
loud and clear.
Well, at least that's the most important part. If everyone could hear me, that's important. If Ben can't hear me, it's important, but not as important. Everybody else has to hear me, right? Including you, Josh. But what's going on? How's everything up by you?
Everything's good, man. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. I had a pretty degenerative night last night into the morning. I was at the Hard Rock till 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah, you kept me. All you would tell me is that you were on your CJ Abrams. You wouldn't tell me more about it.
I was, I told myself I'll be there for 2 hours. That was at 9:30 when I got there, and it was 5:15, and I was getting into my car. I was like, what the fuck? My back was aching. I was in agony. But I did see, it's really crazy actually, I did see a rapper there. His name does start with Lil. He was playing high stakes blackjack.
It doesn't really narrow it down.
Lil Pump. Lil Pump.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, Lil Pump was there. And then I really couldn't care less about these rappers that I don't listen to. I couldn't name a song of his, but I know who he is. It's not the first time I've actually run into him. But I was going to cash out my chips, and he was standing there. This was like an hour after I already saw him first. And he's just chilling there with these two chicks. And he's like half in line, half not in line. I'm like, you in line? He's like, nah, you good, bro. All right, and then I saw these two punks. I'm sorry, I'm calling them punks because they decided to take a picture with him. I was waiting in line, cashing out my chips, and the guy goes, "Yeah." I'm like, what is happening here? What is the guy's posing? Like the guy was taking the picture with Lil Pump. He's like, "Yeah," like pumping his it's the weirdest poses. I can't even imagine. And I'm like, yeah, listen, I get it. He's a famous guy. You might like him, but like, this is the type of picture you want to take with this guy.
I'm not gonna lie to you though. That fits the entire aura of when we were leaving the last time when we were there. That fits the aura completely of that place.
Yeah, I mean it's a unique place, but it was also 3 a.m, and there was not many people there at all. It was really just dead, and I guess he was like, nobody's gonna really recognize me. I could just play freely and do whatever. But yeah, no, it was just a rapper playing high stakes, a couple tables away from where I was playing, and it's Hard Rock in Hollywood, so you expect to see.
I wish he was at your. I wish he was
some
at your
people there.
table. I wish he was at your table so I could see if he was any. No, just so you could tell everyone if he was any good or not.
I mean, the kid throws around money like it's no problem, so I don't know. I mean, he might have been playing at a different stakes level than I was too, probably was, but that's a different topic. Let's get into what we're known at.
Wait, Harry, did you make some money though?
I did. I made some money, a little bit of money, not too much money. It was losing.
But you didn't lose. So
I was losing.
Oh shit!
And it was a rough night, and I was like, we ain't leaving until we coming out of here.
That's why
profitable.
That's why you left at 5 a.m.
I was like, we ain't leaving. And then there was this guy, William, playing blackjack with me, and my mother was with me too. Helen was there too, and we were rocking over there, and she was rocking and rolling. And it was a really fun night, and we were kind of setting the tone of the casino for the last couple hours we were there for. We were rocking and rolling. It was a fun night. It was fun for a Tuesday night. But let's get into what we're good at, what we talk about, and that was just my little introduction because it was cool to see a rapper. I mean, I guess it wasn't that cool, but it was cool. Whatever. So let's get into our picks. It's kind of shitty, right? It was a shitty week. It wasn't good. I mean, we both decided to take a prop, and we both decided to take an anytime touchdown. And Chuba, I guess, decided this week was going to be the week that he decides actually not to show up. And then, CMC was balling, and then he wasn't balling because he got hurt. And now he's out for 6 weeks. But he looked like he was about to score, right? And then he got tripped up
on the play. He got hurt on.
Yeah, he got tripped up. But that trip up, he was going to the end zone. And I was like, even after that play, I'm like, okay.
100%.
I was like, we're scoring. We're a lock. This is happening. There's no way he's not going to score today. They're feeding him the ball. It's snowy out there. Environment's not so great to throw the ball because they can barely see. So you run the ball. And then, the very next play, it was horrible to see him just slide down like that. You knew exactly. No contact injury there. And 6 weeks, probably done for the season, considering where the Niners are right now in their division. And I traded for him in fantasy, which really sucked. But at least I didn't draft him first overall, so I didn't pay the full price for it. And so we take our losses and we move on. But it was just not fun seeing our guys not be able to get
You
to
should
the
have thought
end
of
zone.
it. It's a good thing you didn't think about that at the casino though, because you kept going.
What do you mean? Oh yeah,
'Cause
with
you
yeah.
didn't take your loss and kept going. You
No,
made sure you
you
got
listen.
your bag.
You gotta eventually you gotta win some way somehow, right? You can't be a loser in every single facet of things. But listen, it was an unfortunate week. This is my first time all year taking a prop, and of course the guy doesn't play, after the halfway through the second quarter. So I'm not gonna do that again. Never gonna do that again. I know Josh, you got some bits and pieces in there, but I got a nice one this week. Ben, let's pull mine up. I got an underdog. I got the Chicago Bears plus money against the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, the Niners are just, losing their running back, and they also don't have Jordan Mason. He's on IR as well, so now they got to go to their third string Garendo, and no Brandon Ayuk. It's not the same Niners, and this is what I was talking about in the preseason. This is not the same Niners that we've seen the last couple of years, and if those injury bugs happen, they're going to fall apart. And this is exactly what I predicted in terms of the 49ers. And, it's unfortunate because when you look at teams throughout the NFL landscape, what teams are built to be able to dethrone a team like Kansas City, San Francisco looks like that team. But they fall apart. Brock Purdy's great, but when you got all your number one and number two options not being healthy, it's tough. And so it's been a difficult season, and they're in last place right now in their division. The Rams are ahead of them. So they have a lot of work if they want any chance to be able to make the playoffs. But what do you think about? First of all, what do you think about my play?
I think it's tough because you're taking a team that's 0-5 on the road even though their offense has been very up and down with the injuries and with everything that the defense is number 3 in yards allowed. The 49ers against a team that can't protect their quarterback. If they get protecting him, I think it's got a real shot. I mean, I think that the values there, like you don't take the points because I feel like the Bears they'll either lose big or they'll win the game. I don't think that they're gonna cover and lose. So I think that the value's right in terms of if you're gonna play the Chicago side, but I think that I wouldn't want to look at the running back as the reason because they've done it all year and they haven't been great, but this is arguably the worst team they played in 2 months. So I'm gonna be rooting for you, but I truly don't know what to make of this Bears team because if they protect him, they could hang with a lot of teams, but they just don't do it.
The Bears' last 3 games, they lose to the Packers 20-19. They lose to the Vikings 30-27 in overtime, and they lose to the Lions on Thanksgiving 23-20. This team is, I understand they're not where some people thought they were going to be regarding Caleb Williams and, the amount of talent that they had going into the season. The division's very tough. Obviously, Green Bay, everyone in the division was really good. But if you really consider what the Vikings have done, I'm sorry, not the Vikings, the Bears have done, recently at least, especially with what's happened trending-wise for the 49ers. I mean, this is not the same Niners team. This is not the 49ers that you're like, wow, this is a shock because you're taking a real underdog against a team. The truth is, they have a ton of talent in Chicago. And, if they're starting to finally get their feet under them and starting to feel comfortable, then that team could be a real threat for some teams that are trying to figure it out last second and maybe make a push. Because the Bears are not a bad team talent-wise, and Caleb Williams is figuring it out. I think he had a lot of expectations this season, and the truth is it's a very difficult thing to be a quarterback in the NFL. And so, he's definitely shown signs of being really, really good, and he's shown signs of it being very difficult, and that offensive line has been a really struggle. But I think it's going to be a close game regardless of the fact is it was 4 points. I could have taken the +4, but I think this one is going to really put the nail in the coffin, and the Niners are going to just have to look forward to figuring out what they have next season and moving on from there.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at it, their role this year, they're going to be playing, spoiler, the rest of the year, Niners, Vikings. Well, after the Niners, I mean, it'll be Vikings, Lions, Seahawks, Packers, all teams that'll be looking to make a push. The Bears can have a huge impact on this race if they get it together, if they start blocking. Because I mean, on the road, they allow almost 5 sacks a game, which is kind of wild, most in the league. They're second most overall. The only one that allows more sacks is Cleveland a game. So you got to look at these teams just having a lot of potential if they let their quarterback have time to get through their reads, especially a young one who's still learning how to play. But in a crazy way, it might make him better because he doesn't really have any chance to be comfortable and sit there and look at the end of this year and say, okay, rookie year, I was a baller. Now I'm just gonna go through my off season as I normally would, not anything new within NFL or respecting the competition. I think it's gonna be very humbling for him, someone who's a little outspoken. I don't think he's like as much of a jerk as they tried to make him on draft day, but I do think he's a little outspoken, a little cocky. But like you got to be a little cocky to make the NFL. Let's be real. So I'm not a hater. I just think that this year, the rest of this year, you're gonna learn a lot about what Caleb Williams can bring, or how badly they need to just totally overhaul the O line instead of going for all the talent pieces around him.
It's definitely too early to see if there's a personality issue with Caleb. It's whatever's happened so far. It's nothing to talk about. But the foundation of playing good football is having a strong offensive line to be able to give your quarterback the opportunity
For
to be
sure.
able to be successful and take you down and win some drives for you. But I think they're definitely gonna hurt some teams' chances at making the playoffs. With that tough schedule remaining and all those teams fighting in the mix, the Bears are like, what can we do to make some teams uncomfortable over here? So we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see how this one turns out to be. What is you got a couple ones going? Why don't you share what you got going?
Yeah, Ben, if you want to pull it up, because I don't know which one you put first, but I got them both ready. We got Bills -5. They are super impressive. They take advantage of everything that is thrown at them. They're 4-2 on the road. They've won their last 3 games by more than this margin, and then 5 games ago they beat the Seahawks by 21. Also, the Rams, the Saints were able to shut them out completely for a full half. I don't think that the Saints defense is what it was made out to be before the season started. Obviously, trading Marshall and Lattimore. I just think that you're going to be able to look at this as a game that Josh Allen's going to look at Matthew Stafford, have respect, so still go hard. But then as the game goes on, halftime, you could see it be 21, 24, 27-0 or 3, because if they take a while to get going again against a team that, I mean, the 49ers are, they're not a playoff team like that, but I would put them in the same category as the Rams right now. So if you look at the way that game went last week in the snow, now they're in the dome. I think that they'll be able to utilize all of their assets and have a great game and show out. What do you think?
So, I think it's funny that we both took teams to kind of put the nail in the coffin on some of these NFC West teams. But the Bills, I said it last week on social on Instagram. They are the best team in the AFC in my opinion. Everyone's arguing that that's the Chiefs still because they have the best record, but the Bills beat the Chiefs, and we know what the Chiefs have put out there so far. So, the Rams. Um, Stafford seems like he's just not the same version of himself anymore, and
Mhm.
he's the decision making has been questionable, which is kind of odd because you expect high IQ, Super Bowl winning quarterback here to be able to
Mhm.
make the right plays. But I've watched a couple of Rams games this season where I'm just questioning the decision making. And I know it's very difficult to be able to do that. Obviously he's playing the game. I'm watching it. It's easier to say while you're watching it from a screen. But there's been a couple of questionable plays that I've seen that could have resulted in big, you know, scoring drives that could have resulted in wins for the Rams. Put them in a different category right now than where they are right now. But because of that,
Yeah.
and because of how strong the Bills are, I think this could be a game where it could be a blowout, and it could also be a close game. But the truth is, the Rams haven't proven themselves to be a team that's going to be able to take on one of these better teams and actually be able to beat them or at least make it a competitive game. So I like this one a lot.
I'm going to say 31-17, and then we'll bring out that other pick if you don't mind, please. Mr. Jamar Chase to get a touchdown. You won't see me on the Bengals this year, but you will see me on Jamar Chase. 13 touchdowns in 12 games, 6 in the last 3 weeks. I mean, it's clear who Joe Burrow can trust week in and week out to get over 10 targets, get a touchdown almost every week, and just be an absolute stud, lead the league in receiving. And I don't think that there's anything that the Cowboys can do to stop him.
So it's you know what I how I feel about Joe Burrow and these Cincinnati Bengals and how he's played at least and what Jamar has done this season. So I feel like this is almost like a lock every week. Obviously, it's not going to happen every week, but he seems to have huge performances and is probably, I mean, I'm going to call him the best receiver in football, at least this season. Can you name me someone who's played better? It's unfortunate that he's on a team that's not going to make the playoffs this season, but he is balling out. And that Dallas defense is questionable at best, especially that secondary. So, you know, and I see it I'm a Giants fan. You know, we have a strong front line. We have a weak secondary. If you have a weak secondary, that front line gets a lot weaker. So, you know, you could expect Jamar Chase is going to have a big game. And, I mean, Joe Burrow is playing for the chance that whatever slim chance that they still are holding on to at making a wild card team, a wild card nomination here, it's going to be all or nothing for them. So they're going to brutalize these Cowboys this week, and I'm excited to watch it because I love the Bengals. And I have Joe Burrow in fantasy, so I always like to watch.
And to answer your question, it's really just him and his LSU teammate Justin Jefferson, and they're in a stratosphere of their own. 1A, 1B. I'm not mad. I'm not interested in saying which one's better because one's finesse, one's flash, and they both do it amazing. And it's really fun to watch week in and week out. So even with me saying next year I'm going to be all over the Bengals, I could still watch them because if there's 60, 70 plays on offense, you have a good chance to see Jamar touch the ball every drive, and that's really exciting.
I totally agree that it's Jamar and Jay Jetta as the 1 and 2, but I put Jamar 1 because I think, you know, when you look at some of the games that Jay Jetta has had, and he's not been needed as much, which is a good thing for the Vikings. Right. But you have games like where against the Bears he had 2 catches for 27 yards. You know, it's not Jamar's not having that. Jamar's having big games. I mean, his worst games. I don't have the numbers, and you might have it in front of you, but I can't see being under like a 70-yard game this season, 60 to 70 yards at minimum. So
yeah, well, you look at it, that has nothing to do with the receiver themselves. That's just the team they're on. I mean, the Vikings are a winning football team, and if you switch Joe Burrow to the Vikings and Sam Darnold to the Bengals, I would love to see what Justin Jefferson's numbers would be. I don't think
the LSU connection is huge. Different. Let's not forget that. I think that really does help that. I think they're better off where they are right now. If you swap them, they're still going to be great, but it's not going to be it's not going to be the same level as what we are seeing right now because you have to build that connection.
Yeah. Because Justin Jefferson is incredible. Jamar Chase is incredible. Justin Jefferson was one of my guys that I followed from college. I always like to try and find those guys to really get in the game to follow. So I like him. But if you're talking about this year, I mean, I could agree with you that there's no one on Jamar, but I'd still say 1A and then Jetta 1B. I don't think you can separate them from each other, but I also don't think that there's anyone on their level.
You can make the argument because the Vikings are the better team that he should be number 1. So we'll leave it at that. They're both fantastic receivers, and we're excited to see how their careers keep going and breaking records because I think both of them are going to be shattering some receiving records until they call it a career. So let's move on from our picks because it wasn't so great last week, but we're gonna obviously bring you some positive picks, and we only have a few more left. So this is really going to be it, and then we're going to have to evaluate if we're going to continue doing this with another sport or we're going to just kind of bash it and move on and wait until the NFL season next season to bring this back up.
Tell us what you guys want to see. Do you want to see us do more picks? Do you want to see when the playoffs come around? Do you want us to try and dissect it, maybe like guess the score or something? If you have ideas, let us know. We're definitely going to be chopping it up in the green room, but whatever you think, we're definitely open to it.
Drop it in the comments. Let us know what you guys want to see. If it's NBA, if it's NHL, whatever it is, we'll definitely try our best to incorporate it. But we had a not so great moment on Sunday. Everyone knows about what happened on this hit, but we're referring to the Aziz Al-Shire hit on Trevor Lawrence, and there's a lot of people who are condoning what Aziz did, and there's some people that have mixed emotions regarding what happened here. But let's let everyone at least be able to see. If there's some people out there who didn't get a chance to see the exact play. Benny, if you could pull up that clip.
Launch. You raise the forearm. You go to the head and neck. Launch. You raise the forearm. You go to the head and neck.
Yeah.
It's tough to see. I'm not going to sit here and say Aziz purposefully wanted to like hurt the guy. I don't think that's
Yeah.
the intention of these guys. I think he
Mm-hmm.
was playing rough and he slid and he had his elbow up for a reason which I don't know why.
Mhm.
But I don't think there was like the malintent to like actually cause physical damage and harm to, Trevor Lawrence.
I don't think that I agree with you. I don't think that anyone's running on a football field saying night night besides maybe Vontae's Perfect, who's obviously not playing anymore. But when you look at Aziz, I think that you have to realize that he's a guy who's been penalized a couple times already this year for playing near the edges. And I think that he kind of tries to get his team going. This was a game that the Texans were expected to blow out the Jaguars. I don't know what the score was exactly when that happened, but I feel like they all felt like they should have had the game more in control. So while I don't think he meant to injure him, I think he tried to lay him out, pop him so that he would send a message that we're here, be scared. And of course, you don't expect NFLers to actually get scared, but maybe you think twice before running the ball again and make a mistake. But I don't think that there's a place for this. Exactly what you said with that elbow. I think that there was no reason for the chicken wing to be out. I think that if you're if he starts to slide when you're 5 yards away, when I saw a post about that, and you don't realize how fast these guys are moving. So 5 yards could be 2 steps, and you have to it looked like if that elbow wasn't there, he probably could have tried to dive over him. And then if your leg hits him, then that's an obvious mistake, and then everyone understands if you make contact like that. But if you're purposefully putting your elbow in their head and neck area, I mean, I think that the NFL did the right thing disciplining him, especially after the being a repeat offender. And I think that you look at it that this is a guy that now they're going to be watching very closely in the end of this year and next year. And you just hope he doesn't make a spectacle of himself in a playoff game that can deter what the outcome of what the season should be after a full season of hard work.
It was a brutal hit overall, and we never want to see something like that because, Trevor was definitely banged up after that play. You could see it. He wasn't able to get up right away, but he obviously was able to respond on social media and let everyone know that he was resting up and he's feeling much better, which is a good thing. But, we don't want to see these types of things. And of course, being a repeat offender now, he's got his eyeballs on him from the NFL front office. And, this is a 3-game suspension that he's probably going to be upset that he's going to be missing out on some game checks. So, maybe you learn from your lesson and you don't, you learn how to slide if you want to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, there was no intent and, you didn't want to harm. You learn how to hit these guys or, touch these guys that they're down so that, you avoid these types of things happening. But
Yeah.
it was a gruesome one and we don't want to have to see these happen again. But it was something to at least talk about. And, you hope that you move on from this and everyone learns and this doesn't happen again,
For sure.
Well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna hone in on one specific thing this week. Well, probably gonna take it on for as long as we feel like it's worthy of going on. But we're gonna talk about this week at least Juan Soto. And there's been some information that's been leaking around about the status of what type of offers have been put in front of him and for him to consider between the teams that are out there. And I just don't understand how these people are putting this information out there and we're just supposed to expect to believe them. Why are these people, what I'm asking, and I'm asking you, Josh, and I'm asking everyone out there, why are these reporters coming up with these narratives that aren't going to be true? Because there's a lot of them that are false. We know it because when the truth actually does come out, you can go back and say, wow, these were completely wrong. Why are these reporters doing this when they're setting themselves up potentially to look like idiots?
No one ever looks at the reporter afterwards, besides maybe Arson Judge with Heyman, that they're never really held accountable for these tweets, for these posts. I think that everyone's just trying to get engagement, get clicks, get people looking at their profile. And it's honestly really frustrating to me because I feel like I'm not even I'm someone who likes to have X on for notifications to try and learn about what's going on. And I feel like there's just so much bogus information out there that I can't even look at it. We're in a Yankee group chat and everyone's looking at all these posts, and I'm like, I refuse to look until I see Heyman, who's Scott Boris's buddy, or someone like Passon come out and say that he signed, because there's no point. I mean, I'm a Thunder fan, obviously, and we had Kevin Durant leave after all this stuff was around that he was coming back. And honestly, you don't even know how much of it makes you question how much of it he actually said, or if people were just trying to hype it up. I mean, I definitely felt like I heard it from his mouth, but you could, if you're watching this and you can correct me, please do. But obviously that hurt. But it's not about that. It's about Juan Soto, the biggest free agent in history. Everyone wants to be the guy who said, "I told you so." So everyone's gonna throw out a tweet every week. They're gonna say, "This is where he's going and this is why." And then when the narratives change, if he meets with the team again, if he makes his decision, they're all gonna say, "Oh, you see, I told you," or they're not gonna have to face any backlash because there's so much misinformation out there that it's almost expected that people are gonna be putting crap out there.
Well, here's the thing. I think there needs to be, and I'm just shooting, from 50 yards out, 50 feet out. But there needs to be some.
Journ
I'm locking out on
if
the word here, but like you need to have
let
some
me let if I may
repercussions. You need,
some journalistic integrity.
well, forget about the integrity. Nobody has integrity anymore. 2024. We love integrity, but nobody has it anymore, unfortunately. But there needs to be some
Oh,
repercussions, because the truth is, how are you going to have a career when you have 15 things that are so incorrect, and then you finally get one thing correct, and everyone's like, "Look at this guy, he got it correct," but then all the crap in the back that you didn't get right, nobody's talking about, because you have so many
yeah.
reporters that are saying the Yankees are in fourth place. This is the number that the Yankees aren't willing to go up on. How do you hear something that was written down? I don't understand, because these offers, we know how it's done in the conference room. We know that number is written on a piece of paper. It's presented. Who the hell is telling these people that this is the number that was written down, and now they all of a
Yeah.
sudden now know this information?
Yeah, I mean, it's
What
ridiculous.
if we started doing this too? We just started putting out wrong information until we got it right. Then we look like
Yeah.
gurus? Is this a way to make a good career? Because if it is, I'll just start posting on X and say this person said this and this person did that. And eventually, when I
We'll
do
post
get
every
something
different
right,
team. Yeah.
look at me. I'm correct, and maybe I'll get a big time job because I know something which I just made up. Because that's what a lot of these people are doing. They have 10% of the information and they fabricate 90% of it, and they make the story, and they like to. And I think it's being Yankee fans. They like to aggravate us a little bit more than they like to aggravate the average fan base, because
sure.
they want to see us boil a little bit. Because look at the teams that are in contention. You have the Dodgers, who just won the World Series. You have the Boston Red Sox, our biggest rival and biggest rival in sports history. You have the New York Mets, our crosstown rivals. And you have a Toronto Blue Jays, another division rival. 4 teams that are rivals, and you're saying the Yankees are in 4th or 5th place in terms of an offer. I can't see that being the case. One of our buddies in our group chat put up a good post, and it was that the Yankees, after trading for Juan Soto last season, were willing to give Yamamoto $300 million last season, knowing that they're going to be in the situation that they're going to be potentially having to pay Juan Soto, right?
Mhm.
So if that's the case, you know that the Yankees are going to pony up.
Mhm.
And I'm going to make my
Yeah, I mean, you
prediction.
think
I'm going to make my official prediction on the contract right now.
all right, let's see it.
14 years, $623.5 million for Juan Soto. That is going to be the contract that he is going to get. I believe it's going to be with the Yankees, but I believe more likelihood that the number is going to be roughly around there. That's going to break down to $44.5 million a year.
So I actually had a prediction ready too. I think it's going to be a little bit more because you look at what we're talking about with this information that um, the agents play the cards. They leak false information to get other teams to panic, and I think that he's going to get 14 years, 656 million, which is a little over 46 million a year. Which it isn't a crazy difference on a year to year basis, but I think that you really look at it that I think your price is kind of what the fair market value is, and I think the extra 20 million around is going to be what sort of the market forces the Yankees' hand to do.
Truth is, the teams that are involved in these transactions or in these negotiations know what the BS is and what the BS isn't, right? So we see all these crazy numbers and, potentially 700 million and, over 650 and he's in the 600s now, whatever it is. The teams know that a lot of this is a lot of nonsense and it's trying to drive up the price, but they know what the real numbers are behind the scenes. Yankees know what ballpark the Dodgers are in. They might not know exactly. They know what the ballpark of the Red Sox and the Mets are and where they need to compete. So I think these numbers are a little bigger. I know that the difference here is that we saw Ohtani last season. Nobody thought he was going to get $700 million. We were talking about $500 million, and then he got this big $700 million deal. But that was with deferrals. So that's a big difference.
Juan Soto is not interested in deferrals.
Right. So that takes a lot of equity out of that contract, right? Because the truth is, Soto is not Ohtani. He doesn't pitch. He's not an above average defender. And then in 7 years, when he's 31 years old, he's getting a little older. How much can you actually rely on that defense? At one point, does Soto become potentially a full-time designated hitter, right?
Yeah,
so, it goes back to that, right? So he gets 10 years, $700 million with $680 deferred after, the 10 years are up. That's a big reason why he got such a big contract. So if Soto's getting 620 or anywhere from 620 to the 650 that we're in, that's still insanity of a number. It's an insanity of a number. And I understand it's 4 more years longer. But considering where these players are at, Aaron Judge was a free agent 2 years ago. He got $360 million. And he's the captain of the New York Yankees. He's a 2-time MVP.
Yeah,
but because the age, this is where he's at,
Yeah. They pay for youth. You can see Jason Hayward's contract.
But even with youth, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but here, before, and then you can go. But even with youth, he's getting $40 million a year. So he's not average annual is still less. Go for it.
But what I'm saying is with Hayward, he would not have been a big money guy if he wasn't so young, if he didn't come up so young. But you have to try and harness that, because if you believe in a top prospect like that, other teams are calling to trade for him. That if you don't lock him down, another team's going to go for him if he breaks out. So if you believe in your guy, you pay him. But I have something that, Ben, I want you to mark right now, that a spot to kind of clip, because I want to get the people's opinion on this. That I think that if the Mets do not sign Juan Soto, they will be in multiple World Series within the next 6 years. I think that having him, I don't think that's a need. I think it's a luxury asset for them. I think they're a team that does it their way, with being scrappy, getting the job done with, which they have good players, don't get me wrong, but they have their face, Lindor, they have Alonso, who the fans love. They can bring in all the tools to fill their needs and be a very dangerous threat to the Dodgers. And they even gave them a run for their money this year. I think that within the next 6 years, the Mets could play in at least 2 World Series if they do not sign him. And I want to know, Harry, I want to know your opinion on that, because of all the free agents that are a part of it, and also the people's opinion on that.
Mets are the second biggest choke artists in the history of sports. The Jets are number 1, so I have to disagree, and they're not going to make the World Series for the next 10 years.
Well, I'm saying it in terms of just looking at it, Juan Soto versus not Juan Soto, because bringing in Juan Soto, it seems like a luxury asset that everyone expects Steve Cohen to just throw everything at him, and maybe he will, but he made all his money, and they made a movie about him because he makes smart investments, and he brought in a guy like Stearns because he wants to make sure he maximizes every dollar. So Soto doesn't fit that mold to me, but also Juan Soto can play on 30 teams, and it makes sense. But I feel like it's just something they're just trying to drive the Yankees price up, and I think that Juan Soto's earned every dollar. But I think that at a certain point, which hopefully another one of these reports said that he'll decide this week. Hopefully we can get a resolution to this soon, so we can see where the chips start to fall.
Possibly as soon as tomorrow, but I will agree that Juan Soto doesn't get the Mets closer. They would probably be better off not signing him and then going after and spending the money elsewhere. But I'm going to stick to the point that the Mets are the biggest choke artists, and they will not make the World Series for the next 10 years. And we'll move on to our fan questions from there. Well, we got two.
You know why I can't comment on that.
Mets are Mets, whatever. We don't even want to talk about the Mets. We got 2 audience assists, And Ben, if you could do the honors of starting them up for us.
What's up, you guys? Yeah, we got 2 audience assists this week.
Ben.
So, we got J_Cluck. What do you think the Browns should do from here as far as QB goes? Don't know what more evidence is needed for this terrible front office to realize Watson is the issue. He goes down last year and Flacco brings them to the playoffs. Now Winston has the team looking like they're enjoying the game again. #dog pound.
So the biggest thing that the Cleveland Browns, biggest mistake they've done over probably the last 15 years of being an organization is giving Deshaun Watson a fully guaranteed contract. That was absolutely brutal. First of all, he's a horrible human being for what he's done off the field. And then you give him this huge contract, and it seems like whatever he was good at in Houston, he left it back there, and he came to Cleveland with no talent and is just a horrible football player. I mean, I can't even sit here and call him a quarterback anymore. Watching him is dreadful. And Jay Cluck, I've come to the understanding that you're a Cleveland guy. You're a fan of the Browns. You're a fan of the Guardians. You're a fan of the Cavs. I'm a Cavs fan as well, so would love to talk some more about that as well. But we're specifically focusing on the Browns here, and we're specifically focusing on the quarterback situation. They need to do whatever they can to move on from Watson, whether that's to just cut him at this point and similar to what they did with in Denver with Russell Wilson and just kind of move on from there. I don't think Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson are similar players. I think Russell Wilson's obviously great and he's revitalized his career. I think Deshaun Watson at best is a backup quarterback throughout this NFL at this point in his career because the talent is not there. He's not the same player he once was, in my opinion, for what he was in Houston. We saw that. Flacco comes in, the old aged Flacco, and he leads the team to the playoffs last season. And this year, same thing. Jameis Winston's a talented football player. We were talking about him before, whether or not one of these teams should have went and gotten and signed him. And, you know, he's talented. So you're going to see some much better football coming out of him, considering you've traded your number one receiver to the Bills, and now you had Jerry Jeudy, who just lit it up last week. You know, it shows you the Cleveland Browns aren't that far off, but they definitely need a quarterback. So I'm certain they're going to be addressing that this offseason in the draft. And, you know, they're going to have to, you know, listen, the truth is, as much as Winston has been great to watch this season, he's not your future quarterback. I'm sorry to break that to you. If you love him that much, he could be a backup, but I think the Browns have to go out there and evaluate the quarterback situation in the draft for sure. Maybe even look at in free agency.
Yeah, well, I think that you kind of want to see how far you could see this thing ride out with Jameis, maybe give him another year or 2 years. But if you're asking what I would do, I would have Jameis, and then I would try and get Quinn Ewers. Ewers, I don't know how to pronounce that exactly. I think I said it the same way.
You said
twice,
it perfectly, by the way.
Ewers, thank you. The Texas quarterback, I would bring him in behind Jameis because if the Jameis thing crashes out, you have a very high upside quarterback waiting behind him. I don't think that they've let a quarterback kind of marinate a little bit, get the feel for the game before they just threw him out there. And I think Jameis is the perfect bridge quarterback right now because he has connections with all these receivers, with Winston, with Tillman, and I think you go and spend money on a receiver for him or for Ewers. Whatever you do, you bring in maybe even T. Higgins if he likes Ohio still. I think that you just got to figure it out. You got Nick Chubb, which it doesn't look like he's the same Nick Chubb, but he's still a pretty good Nick Chubb. If you can get one of these rookie running backs like Ollie Gordon in like the third, I don't know if he'll fall that far, but if you could get him in the third after getting Quinn in the second, I think that's a huge high upside draft for players that the team likes to watch, that the fans like to watch a lot. But also I think that bringing in Quinn Ewers and just having Jameis, you got to ride this Jameis thing out. Fans are excited. I haven't heard positivity from Browns fans in a long time, and even when they were a playoff team. But Jameis Winston, I feel like just they need that energy for football in Cleveland, and I think that that's going to be the perfect bridge to success.
Well, let's see what happens over the next 4 weeks, and then I guess we'll have a better understanding of how Winston's going to fit into the picture of things, at least for the short-term future of the Browns. But Jay Cluck, thank you for that amazing question, and we look forward to hearing
Appreciate
more
you.
from you. And we'd love to discuss some Cavs as well, or at least I would love to discuss some Cavs. So if you have any takes on that, please feel free to share any of that.
We got one more, Harry.
Let's do it.
We got one more. This one's from our trusty man, Matt.
Who else could it be? The
We love this
man, the
guy.
myth, the legend, Matt.
What's
Welcome
up, Matt?
back.
So Matt says, I know you guys are huge sports fans. Do you remember a specific memory that got you into sports? Also, would love to hear your favorite sport memory that you will never forget. I love that.
It's a two-part question, really.
So
That is a two-part
yeah,
question.
so I'll start off this time. It's a great question, and for me, I felt like, excuse me, I feel like playing baseball was my escape from kind of the world. I felt like I was just like everybody else finding myself, but I felt comfortable at home on the baseball field. And then getting to go to Yankee games, I saw that these guys do this obviously at a much higher level than I did, but they just do it and it's the same thing. And I could really connect with what they're doing, what they're trying to accomplish. And then in my notebooks in school, when I should be paying attention, I'm making Yankees lineups and pretend games and scorecards. And then just from there, just watching things play out. And then there is one moment that I think really made sports a part of my being. My parents aren't really into sports as much as I am. I mean, they latch onto my teams when they support them, even though my dad grew up near Queens and stuck in the World Series when that was acceptable.
Bradford was a Bills fan, by the way. Just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, he did like them, but he didn't really care for these sports as much. But one time I got to go to Philadelphia to watch the Yankees play the Phillies. Actually, I don't know if the Yankees were playing, but Raul Ibanez was definitely on the Phillies. And Raul Ibanez hit a walk-off home run. That was my dad's favorite player in the world. The only reason he wanted to go, actually, I definitely remember the Yankees were not involved, so scrap that part. But Raul Ibanez hit a walk-off home run, and my dad was so excited that I've never really seen. And I'm saying, damn, sports really can have happiness impact. Where obviously we know a lot of things in my dad's life are very difficult. We don't gotta go into details about that. I love my dad and whatever, but just being able to see it bring him that joy when he doesn't care about it as much as I do. That just kind of when I took off and ran with it and wanted it to be a part of my life forever.
That's a beautiful thing, and it was also a beautiful thing to see that Raul Ibanez actually ended up, playing for the Yankees for a season as well, and was really a really great part of that team, especially in the playoffs. He was amazing to watch. But that was beautiful.
Absolutely.
When I have to, look back at memories, there's so many. It's like, how do you pick, right? But I'll start off with, what memory got me into sports. I grew up playing basketball before anything, but watching was the first thing was baseball. I told myself, I'm like, I want to get into baseball. I just told myself that. I don't know. I woke up one day, I said, I want to get into baseball. I started watching it, and I didn't realize how fascinating it actually would be until I realized the complexities of the sport. And it really did fascinate me. And I remember, watching my first game on TV. I think it was like 06. No. I mean, I from what I saw on TV, 06 is what I remember. But I'm certain I've watched games in the past. But my memory goes back to the first time I see a home run off a Yankee bat was like 06, 07, Johnny Damon hitting a 2-run home run. And I was like, oh my God. And I loved Johnny Damon. I was like, this guy's the man. I mean, he was very good. He was really great for the Yankees when he was on there for 5 years. And that was kind of when I look back at it and I see the memories. I see Johnny Damon. I see, the Yankees, the Joe Torre days, and just like those memories pop up. But, it's one memory that I would say, there's so many memories. Like we can go on. We can have a whole episode just for memories, right? And I could even say like the trip we did for the basketball game when we went to see the Thunder and the Sixers play in Philly, when we drove in 7 hours of snow, and it was a 2.5-hour drive without snow, but there was a blizzard that hit, and we finally got there, and we got 3 overtimes. That was a sick game. But I have to go recent memory. I have to say going to the World Series. Never been there. That's something I'll never forget, and I hope to go to more, but that will always be my first World Series that I ever went to. And it was a loss, but it was still an experience that I'll never forget, and you were there, and it'll always be a part of my life. And I'm always forever grateful for those moments.
Oh, for sure. I definitely think that one thing I wanted to add on with your awesome story is that the World Series is definitely something that was really special kind of a bucket list moment to be able to go with you. Not sure if it'll happen again where I could go in person, but wanted to make sure that it was acknowledged that it was really special to go with you. You were the life in the crowd when the crowd saw Freddie Freeman hit the home run. We don't really got to go into that, but you were trying to get everyone along, and I think that if they would have had your energy, that it would have helped a lot.
Well, sometimes you just got to be a little bombastic, let's just say. But yeah, I mean, memories will always be a part of us when it comes to sports, and I'm certain we're going to make so many more memories, and I'm certain we're going to make so many memories on this podcast with all these great things that we're doing over here. And we're super appreciative of you guys. Thank you so much for these amazing questions that you guys put out there. Thank you so much for the comments. We're getting so much more engagement now, and we're really appreciative of it. So keep going, guys, even the good, the bad, the crazy, all the nonsense. You know how much I love being told that I'm crazy and my takes are insane. So please, if it's social media on Instagram or Josh is better at telling everybody where you can find us, but I know that we're on Spotify and YouTube and a couple other things. So Josh, why don't you finish that part off, and then we'll get into the best part of the show.
Yeah, I mean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. My outro will be that the Thunder are Group B champions. Don't know how much I should care about that, but I guess we should just practice winning because I see us going all the way with iHeart.
I'll see you in the NBA Finals. And on that note, guys, the best part of the show, our Yogiism. Congratulations. I knew that record would stand until it was broken.
What a guy.
What a guy, man. Yogi Berra. Love him. Love him. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Beyond the Score podcast, and looking forward to seeing you guys next week. See you there.